Hey guys, it's Greg with Apple Explained, and today we're going to talk about one of the most underrated and overlooked features of Apple products, and that is audio. Because ever since the iPod's signature white earbuds, Apple has made some incredible contributions to the audio industry that tend to go unnoticed, and their audio engineering team is perhaps one of the least recognized in the company. Now, this video topic came in third in last week's voting poll, and if you didn't get to vote, make sure you're subscribed. That way, the polls will show up right in your mobile activity feed, and you can let me know which video you'd like to see next. So when it comes to Apple's audio history, I think it makes sense to begin back in 2001, with the earbuds included with every iPod. And despite most other music players featuring stealthy black headphones, Apple decided to make their earbuds pure white, a design decision that would later pay off since it became a signature of the iPod and earned Apple more brand visibility when their products were used in public. But there was one downside to these earbuds, and that was mediocre audio quality. So Apple eventually began developing a more premium brand of earbuds that were released in 2005. They were called the Apple in-ear headphones and cost just $40. And if you're wondering why that sounds suspiciously cheap, it's because they weren't actually that great. Their narrow cone shape made them prone to falling out of your ears, and most of the audio improvements could only be heard when pressing them deeper into your ear. I should also mention that there was no inline microphone or remote to control your music, so there was very little incentive for customers to purchase these headphones. But keep in mind, this was Apple's first attempt at premium headphones, and they learned quite a bit since 3 years later in 2008, they released an upgraded pair of in-ear headphones that improved upon every weakness of its predecessor. For example, its new shape allowed it to fit much deeper in your ear with no risk of slipping out, and the silicone tips were much softer and more comfortable inside the ear, which meant you could wear these headphones for long periods of time without any discomfort or pain. But the biggest improvement Apple made was to the sound quality. The headphones featured dual driver output, which meant there was a woofer and tweeter in each earbud. This resulted in clear treble and rich bass that were even further enhanced by noise isolation that dampened ambient sounds. And to top it all off, Apple included a redesigned remote and microphone with buttons that were easier to press. Now, all these improvements came at a cost, since Apple's new in-ear headphones were priced twice as much as its predecessor. But its $80 price tag was still much lower than its competition, which came in at around $100 to $120. Now, Apple still hasn't upgraded these headphones since 2008, but they did introduce the EarPods in 2012, which came with the iPod Touch, iPod Nano, iPod Classic, and iPhone. And they were a huge improvement over Apple's previous signature white earbuds. They featured a new inline remote and microphone, similar to the in-ear headphones, and a new design that was based on years of Apple's research regarding thousands of different ear shapes and sizes. So the EarPods fit comfortably and securely in more people's ears than ever before. Apple also managed to improve sound quality by using a paper cone diaphragm rather than plastic, which allowed for deeper bass and higher durability. Now, the EarPods' overall design served as the foundation of Apple's next ambitious audio project, the AirPods, which in my opinion is the greatest audio product the company has ever made. Because for years, many customers dreamed of truly wireless earbuds that looked and worked exactly like Apple's traditional headphones, except without the wire. But this proved to be much more difficult than it may have appeared, because the AirPods required a breakthrough in wireless connectivity and power efficiency, which Apple achieved with the W1 chip. And Apple's execution of the magnetic charging case was nothing short of impressive. But when it was introduced in 2016, the AirPods were met with a lot of criticism, mainly over its high price. It also didn't help that the removal of the headphone jack on the iPhone 7 was announced alongside the AirPods, and that made a lot of people believe Apple was simply trying to manipulate them into buying overpriced headphones. But as is the case with many new Apple products, once people started using them, they began to understand how valuable they really were. And if you compare the AirPods' $160 price tag to its competition, you'll find that it actually wasn't a bad deal at all. And it was clear that customers felt the same way, since the AirPods sold so well that it took Apple almost 3 months to keep them stocked at Apple stores. Now, the following year in 2007, Apple followed up the AirPods with the HomePod, although its release date slipped to early 2018. And despite its name sounding similar to the HomePods, it didn't experience the same level of success. But before we talk about that, I want to point out that the HomePod wasn't Apple's first home speaker system. Back in 2006, the company released the iPod Hi-Fi, which included dock connector adapters for every iPod released up to that point, because its main draw was that it could be used seamlessly with your iPod and that it delivered the best audio quality in the industry. But it also featured some pretty impressive design elements, like the built-in power supply, integrated handles, and touch-sensitive volume buttons. But its $350 price tag was out of reach for most customers, and Apple discontinued the iPod Hi-Fi just 1 year later due to disappointing sales. And that's why some people today are referring to the HomePod as the iPod Hi-Fi 2.0, because it's also been plagued with sluggish sales and the same premium price of $350. But I don't think it's fair to equate the two products, since the HomePod does feature some groundbreaking technology to differentiate itself from the competition. For example, its cylindrical design allows sound to be projected in all directions, which means your music will have an even volume and sound quality no matter where you're at in the room. It also has sensors that enable spatial awareness to automatically analyze the acoustics of a room and adjust the sound based on its location. But I think the most impressive thing about the HomePod is its microphone technology, because when you say, "Hey Siri," HomePod is able to filter out ambient noise and focus on your voice so it has a better chance of understanding your request. Apple actually released internal test audio of this technology to give you a better idea of what HomePod hears when it receives a request.
Hey Siri, what's the weather like today in Cupertino? Hey Siri, what's the weather like today in Cupertino?
So although the HomePod isn't selling as well as Apple hoped, it does have some impressive technology under the hood. And it's been said that Apple may be developing a more affordable version of the HomePod to compete with Amazon Echo and Google Home, so I think this is just the beginning, and we could see Apple become a much bigger player in the smart speaker market very soon. But the accomplishments of Apple's audio team goes much further than dedicated headphones and speakers. Because if you've tested the speakers on the iPad Pro, iPhone XS, Apple Watch, or 12-inch MacBook, you probably understand just how impressive the audio quality and volume is coming from such small devices. Because if you think back to early iPhones, it was nearly impossible to have a conversation on speakerphone or play music in a noisy outdoor environment. The audio was just too tinny and wasn't nearly loud enough. But that has changed dramatically today, with iPhones and iPads that are even thinner than ever before. And a large part of the audio team's recent success can be attributed to this man, Tomlinson Holman, one of the most prominent figures in modern audio. He used to be the technical director of Lucasfilm, where he helped create the THQ Theater sound system, which stood for the Tomlinson-Holman experiment. He also invented the world's first 10.2 sound system and was hired by Apple in 2011, which would explain why the company has made industry-leading audio products in recent years. But I think Holman and his team are just getting started. There have been rumors of Apple releasing in-ear AirPods within the next year or two, which I think would sell extremely well, considering the demand for higher quality noise-isolating AirPods has been building ever since their release, but there are also rumors of Apple making over-the-ear headphones, similar to Beats. And if that's true, the headphones would have to feature some sort of groundbreaking technology to differentiate themselves and convince customers to pay its inevitably higher price. And judging by a patent Apple filed in 2016, that new technology could come in the form of audio processing, which would use a variety of techniques to make sound appear as if it isn't being heard through the headphones at all. Apple refers to this as acoustic transparency, where ambient sound from the user's environment would be processed and included in the headphone's audio feed. That way, the listener would feel like they're hearing audio from a larger soundstage rather than from right outside their head. Now, this information is from a patent, which means Apple may not develop or implement this technology, but it does give us insight into the unique ways Apple is approaching audio. So it's clear that Apple is equipped with an incredible audio engineering team, judging by the products they've released, and I think it'll be fascinating to see just how competitive the company becomes in the audio industry. Will they grow their headphone product line to a size comparable to Beats, or will they focus their efforts on a few audio products that are executed extremely well? I guess only time will tell, but I have a feeling Apple's audio team is only getting warmed up. Now, I want to thank ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. If you've been considering signing up for a VPN service, I highly recommend using ExpressVPN since they have an amazing rating on the App Store and are known for providing really high-speed VPN connections. And I don't know if you realize this, but your internet service provider and cellular provider can actually track your internet browsing activity, something I think is an invasion of privacy. But if you have a VPN, no company or person will know what you're doing on the internet. Even the websites you visit won't know where you're located since ExpressVPN masks your public IP address. So I think that feature alone makes the service well worth its price of less than $7 a month. But there are even more benefits, like the ability to set your location to almost any country in the world, and unblocking content on YouTube or Netflix that isn't available in your home country. So if you'd like to take advantage of these features and take back your internet privacy today, then find out how you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by clicking the link in the description. The link is expressvpn.com/AppleExplained. That's expressvpn.com/AppleExplained for 3 months free with a 1-year package. Visit expressvpn.com/AppleExplained to learn more. Take your privacy back today. Alright guys, so that is the most underrated feature of Apple products, and if you want to vote for the next video topic, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.